Hello all, welcome back to my channel Swapnil's Analysis, and I am Swapnil. Today, as I have discussed earlier in my last lecture, that we are going to deal with the Lucy poem, five Lucy poems of William Wordsworth, the five iconic Lucy poems of William Wordsworth. And today we are going to discuss she Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways by William Wordsworth, one of the Lucy poem. This is the henceforth the five videos will be made on Lucy poem series. So this is the poem first of, although it is the second one, but we are going to deal with this poem. She dwelt among the untrodden ways, also known as song originally of William Wordsworth's famous iconic Lucy poems. Now, William Wordsworth, he had gone for 4 months vacation in Germany with his sister Dorothy. And there, the idea of Lucy poems struck to his mind. So, all the Lucy poems deals with the idea of the death of Lucy and the impact of Lucy on her lover. So all these poems have been narrated by from the perspective of the lover of Lucy. How a person feels when a beloved person demises or passes away, how it affects, how his death, his or her death affects to the family. That has been described here. But here, if you pay attention to the Wordsworth's idea of death, and Wordsworth dealing with the post-independent scenario of Lucy, you would understand that it is the only lover who has been affected, means deeply impacted by the death of Lucy. We do not know what the family members of Lucy they think about, what the friends of Lucy they think about. This is the one and overall experience or the perspective of Lucy's beloved, and how he remembers which ideas, which things, which moments of Lucy he remembers after the death of Lucy. That has been described in these five poems. And she Strange Fits of Passion, the first poem of Lucy series, and the second one, She Dwelt Among the Untrodden Ways, or both the poems are known as poems on the affection. They deal with the affection of the lover to the beloved Lucy, their deceased Lucy, and how they are actually living when Lucy is no more in this world. This is the overall concept of this the poem. So here, as we all are aware, that Wordsworth was deeply impacted and affected and moreover influenced by the rustic life, by the countryside, by the nature of the countryside. And likewise here, Lucy has been presented as the countryside beauty. Directly there is a contrast between countryside beauty and the city or urban beauty. So here Lucy is a young woman or young girl, unmarried, but she was beautiful. She was beautiful in her own way, not in the set standards of the urban area or the city standard. So she was beautiful according or as per to the rustic or countryside or the village standards. But she was beautiful, and one of the most important thing about beauty is that beauty appeals to everyone. If you are beautiful, then you will be considered as beautiful in any part of the world. There is no such a criteria. Beauty appeals to everyone. So once you are beautiful, you are always beautiful. That is the concept Wordsworth was trying to deal here, but from a very different perspective. Here, the speaker of the poem is a lover, and he is informing us about his beloved, that too in a very different manner. For instance, while reading this poem, you must also remember the poem of Robert Burns, that is, "My love is like a red rose." How he has described his beloved in that poem, and how here Wordsworth has very differently described the beloved. You should also compare both the lovers, their attitude towards their beloved, and also the love reflected in these two poems. So here what he says in the first stanza. Originally, the poem was written was had 5 stanzas, but later on, Wordsworth he omitted 2 stanzas, and now the final product of the poem is of 3 stanzas. This poem means all the Lucy poems Wordsworth wrote in during his vacation in Germany from 1798 to 1799. I think October 1798 to February 1799 of this 4 months vacation along with his sister Dorothy. So let us start. She dwelt among the untrodden ways, beside the springs of Dove, a maid whom there were none to praise, and a very few to love. So what here he is saying here, she dwelt among the untrodden ways, beside the spring of Dove, beside a river. Dwelt, he has used the word dwelt instead of living, because she died so early. The most important factor of all the Lucy poems is that all the Lucy poems, they have died early at the very young age. Therefore he has used the word as a dwelt instead of living. So she dwelt among the untrodden ways. So she was far away, isolated from the society, from the village where she was living. Beside the spring of Dur, means her house uh, could have been on the bank of one of the river, means river Dove here, and the village would have been far away. And so people, they did not know, or they did not notice that a very beautiful Lucy was lived there. Why? Because she was away from the village, and therefore what she would do, she would walk on the side of the bank of the river. She would always be lonely, isolated from the society, and therefore in the third line he says, "A maid whom there were none to praise, and a very few to love." Besides, so the whole village, they just neglected the beauty of the Lucy, and no one even praised her. And loved here is in the contrast that besides the family members and the lover, no one really loved or praised Lucy. And here, after the death, only the beloved is remembering the Lucy. So therefore, he is here. What he is doing, he is praising Lucy. And the Lucy's family member, they have also forgotten about the Lucy after the death of Lucy. So here the scenario is, Lucy is long dead, and her beloved, he is remembering her. And on the other hand, her family members, they were very few, they too have forgotten about Lucy. So here the unluckiness of Lucy has been emphasized in the first stanza of the poem. Okay, she was beautiful, she was lonely, she was isolated from the society, and simultaneously, after the death, only the beloved, he remembers her. And even her family members, they have also forgotten about her. Now in the second stanza, he has given a symbolic description of Lucy. So how a violet by a mossy stone, half hidden from the eye, fair as a star when only one is shining in the sky. So here he has compared Lucy to a violet flower. Violet means a wild yellow flower, and that too behind a mossy stone, half hidden from the eye. See, all the flowers basically they are beautiful, but what we have made a perception, our perception is that only some and certain flowers they are beautiful. Means for instance the roses, for instance the jasmine, and we all other flowers, means all the flowers basically they are beautiful. There is not a single flower that is considered as ugly. So here, by comparing Lucy to the violet wildflower, he is implicating here that Lucy was a rustic beauty. She was beautiful in her own way, and violet flowers they last only for a short while. So as that is the indication that Lucy died very early, very at the age of 21 or 22, or probably at the age of 20. So mossy stone here is a permanent, means stone is a permanent thing. Flower, that is a temporary thing. So life of a Lucy was a temporary, and mossy stone also symbolizes towards the stone on the grave of Lucy. So the probable perception of here would be that he was standing or sitting beside the grave of Lucy, and he was remembering the Lucy. He was recollecting all the memories of Lucy. And now he has compared Lucy, fair as a star, when only one is shining in the sky. He has compared Lucy as a star. Means Lucy was beautiful in her own way. But when there is only Lucy, then people would call her, okay, she is beautiful. But when there are so many other beautiful girls, beautiful damsels are there, her beauty somewhere gets vanished, somewhere she gets disappeared from the eye of the people. Then people do not consider Lucy as a beautiful girl. When only Lucy is there, people would call her, okay, see, she is beautiful. But when there are other women, other girls who are as equal to beautiful to Lucy, then people do not consider Lucy as beautiful. So here he has compared that Lucy was a star, but when only she was shining in the sky. When there are multiple stars, when there are multiple other damsels around Lucy, then people they forget to notice the beauty of Lucy. That is the thing he was here discussing about the village beauty. She lived unknown, and few could know when Lucy ceased to be. So she lived outside of the village. She was isolated, and therefore, although she was beautiful, very few people knew that Lucy was there, and very few people cared when Lucy actually died. Here, what here is implying that even Lucy's family, they too have forgotten about Lucy. So the unluckiness has been emphasized here by William Wordsworth. And here only, that's what the last line ends here, that but she is in her grave. Therefore I said that he probably would be sitting beside the grave of the Lucy, and he was recollecting the memories of Lucy as a person. And therefore he is saying the last two lines validates our interpretation of the speaker, that but she is in her grave, and oh the difference to me, her death, she is died now, her death has affected only to me as her lover. Everyone, even including her family members, they too have forgotten the Lucy. So here Wordsworth, what here he was trying to do, that he was trying to get inside into the head or the mind of a lover whose beloved has died, and people they do not care, and how the death of a person impacts to the lover, the person we love, be it our mother, be it our sister, be it our father, or be it our here the lover of Lucy. Even he's indirectly implying that the Lucy's family members, they too have forgotten about Lucy, forget about the other villages. So what do you think about this poem particularly? Please let me know into the comment section, and if you have liked my presentation, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.